All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Beastars, Season 1, Episode 5. Last episode was not at all amazing or anything.
One of the best episodes of anime I've seen in a while. That was incredibly good. It had a lot of spectacle to it, had a lot of character to it. And now we're set in a really important place for where Louis and Legoshi are going to take the play from here.
Right.
Because Louis did kind of maybe set up a little bit of a change in direction for the play from here on out. And
just a bit. Yeah.
Given that this was something different, it is going to generate a lot of buzz.
Sure.
Who knows? Maybe they'll change the production again. Maybe they'll keep doing it, with this as like being a part of it. Like there's a lot of things they can do with the play part itself.
If they use this as a way for Legoshi to be the lead, I would freak out just a little bit because Louis can't keep doing this every play, right?
No, of course not.
No,
yeah, definitely not.
Right, and Bill might not be fit, might not want to, all kinds of other reasons. So
yeah,
the show must go on. How's that going to happen?
Right. Or they could basically end it on that and have some kind of dramatic message, accompanying it outside of the stage environment. We'll just have to see. But y'all, without further ado, let's get into this.
I love this opening so much.
God, the stop motion for this is so legit.
Yeah. So, if the theater production starts taking on a big portion of the story and sort of the setting and conflict within the school, do you think that Haru will end up getting involved somehow, or as a way to keep her in the story with the characters?
No. I think her connection into the story is going to be the next time her and Legoshi meet. There will be something that will basically instigate something that could lead to a potential wholesome kind of scene like this.
Okay.
But they need to have they haven't resolved that yet.
Right.
So it's something that will have to be separate, in my opinion, from the play.
Sure.
So it's either Legoshi specifically and independently going to see her. Or her going to see him. So, yeah.
Okay, what if Legoshi got the main role, and then, because of that, she came to see the play?
Yeah, but they wouldn't necessarily talk just because of that.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, let's see. Wow. Yeah. It's a buzz.
Wow.
I usually even try to find a reason for dirt on your tail. Oh, interesting title. We've seen this dog before.
Is that
and he was a roommate or something.
Yeah, I think that's his roommate. Wow.
Birth of a dark hero. Oh. Oh, yeah.
Come on, don't be so down on yourself like that.
Wow. Wow, yeah. That just sounds like Louis, though.
Yeah, I mean, that is an issue.
Ah,
okay.
Oh.
Is that where the picture came from?
Yeah.
その時、ルイ先輩の表情が一瞬普通の18歳のように揺れた気がしたけど。
Oh, wow.
でも錯覚だった。
さっきの命令は撤回だ。あの舞台は成功した。成功させたからには最後まで演じ切ってもらうぞ。
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
もちろん。
Wow.
計画していたことですよ。
そうですよね。観客はみんな驚いたと思います。その辺のお話を伺っていいですか？
いいですよ。後輩たちにとっても大きな意味のある公演になったと思います。
Literally with the black eye on Bill.
Yeah.
とても複雑です。みんなが何かを隠し。
Ah, bringing this
Nice.
up. Cool.
ただその姿に確かな信念があるならば、必ず光が当たるべきでしょう。
Interesting.
稚拙でも信念があるならば、そういったメッセージを後輩は見事に演じ切ってくれます。
It's a bit too generalized and all-encompassing, you know?
怒りは収まったのか？
怒り？
だってお前、昨日の乱闘演技じゃなかったのか？
Cool. Yep. And he still accepts you.
年の付き合いだと思ってんだよ。はい、3秒ルール。
3-second rule!
ずっとそうでいたかったよ。
え？
ずっと一匹で落ち込んで立ち直って。
A little cycle.
昨日は生まれて初めて。
Yeah, now the routine is broken. So you're having to stare your own life in the face, yeah.
俺の気持ちは俺しか持っていないっていうか。
Yeah, keep talking, man. This is good.
変わったな。
Yeah! I love this doggo.
Yeah.
今が一番生き生きしてるってレゴシ。
そうなの？
Yeah.
大丈夫。いや、
Awesome.
正直言うとさ、最近のレゴシはしんどそうな時もあったから僕心配してたんだぜ。
Oh.
きっかけとか？
Yep,
Well,
there was. There's been a couple things actually very recently.
Yeah.
恋とか。尻尾も揺れる恋の予感。レゴシレレ。
You finally awakened!
メスオオカミといえばあいつと4匹くらい。お、結構絞り込めるぜ。
そうだね、大変だ。
I guess so. Have fun with that. Oh my god.
I love it.
I love him so much. That's great.
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
元気ないじゃない。
Oh.
余計な詮索はしないのが春の美点だろ。
Whale.
来いよ。
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy. This is complicated. Okay.
Well, we got ourselves a triangle.
Yep, we do. Oh boy.
例年通り白と灰色の割合が高いな。
ほとんど僕とレゴシの毛なんじゃない？
Oh.
しかし去年より
Wow.
Nice. Okay.
That makes sense. I was wondering for things like this, because...
Ah, festival! Cool.
やったわ。今年の夏も外出届なしで街に出まくるわよ。
Oh, hanging out around town without getting permission. Is that a carnivore specific thing?
Maybe.
Or maybe it's just a student thing. It probably is a student thing in general. Yeah, why dinosaurs? Oh, cool. They kind of see them as like, yeah, spiritual, like, things to look at.
And before this goes Jurassic Park.
Ooh, the romantic one.
Ah. I see.
Ah, it's a normies event. Yeah. Oh. 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 Yep. Yep. Oh, okay, okay.
Already.
Gotcha. So the general story is that there was a little bit of it that went out of control, but they think it was still overall part of the performance.
Right, and they keep that low.
Oh.
Is he going to see her?
Yeah, I think so. The leader of the group here, you know, being like, hey, hey, come on. It's an interesting little thing for character focus there.
Oh.
Oh. Wow, these...
Alright.
These... Wow. Wow. I like that we're getting her internal thoughts here.
Yeah. I love that she's handling this in a much... Oh, jeez. Like, she was handling it in a much better way. Like, it didn't seem like it was getting to her.
Right. Okay. Who's behind her?
Yeah.
Oh, it's him. It's him.
Yeah.
Whoa, this is awesome.
Yeah. I love it.
Because they would never back down for that, but that's giving her this catharsis. She thinks like, ha, yes. I'm just checking to see if she has any scratches and stuff from the whole thing there. Oh my gosh. Ooh.
Yeah,
that was a line, yeah. That was the quietest. Like...
Yeah.
That was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're in the bigger,
right.
the bigger animals cafeteria area. Oh no! Oh my God, Legoshi! What? Oh! I empathize with him so much. I totally get what he's.
What's the name?
I will eat. Yeah.
A bit of that flight, like, instinct.
Yeah.
I think it's just whenever she sees him take a bite.
Oh, you're right, yeah. Yep, I heard it again.
Ouch. Ooh.
Yeah, what does that mean? Yeah. No, I think he's actually like right on the money with this. She kind of. Yeah, you're right.
この狼は多分めっちゃいい子だし、もっと仲良くなりたいけど、物理的な差がありすぎるし。美味しかった。
Yeah, quickly establishing the distance.
寮戻るけど、あなたは？あれ？ちょっと待ってね。
This is the same place, wasn't it?
No, well, is it? I think that was intentional. But this is from his perspective, what's going on in her head.
Right.
Is this in his head, or is this actually what's going on? No, it's actually going on.
All right.
It's actually going on. Okay, okay.
That's a smile.
That looks like a smile, yeah.
Yeah. Wondering why the tail's dirty.
Aww.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Wow. What an interesting episode.
Huh.
Okay, just Haru, let's go. Or Haru, let's go. Another new ED. Yeah, people have been wanting us to discuss more about how the EDs are different, and it was more of a thing where I'd like notice it, but like it's not really like as like a big of a thing to get into, I guess, but
yeah. But okay, that went really well. It went well, all things considered. Like, but it also set up a bunch of obstacles that
it set up
there.
a few problems.
Yeah.
And I think they're new problems that are not necessary to introduce. Meaning, like...
Right. If anything, it seems like it's showcasing a bit more of what her arc might be. Because it wasn't what we originally thought it would be, since she's stabilized a lot more.
Right. Okay. Ooh. Wow.
Okay.
Oh my god. Guys, this show is incredible.
Oh yeah.
Like the last episode I was saying was a little bit more exciting than this one.
Right.
It had a lot more things that were built
dramatic.
up.
Yeah.
Right. And they were it was a climax of a couple things that were built up to that point. So then here we kind of gave a little bit of epilogue to the play arc of sorts.
Yeah.
And now we're building things back up with the Haru and Legoshi kind of interaction,
because
relationship kind of arc thing.
And one of the things that I'm really excited about is because with the way Haru seemed to be introduced in the first two episodes, she seemed a lot more broken than she is currently. Right.
She seemed more of a victim and someone that was maybe at the very least kind of an isolated loner. And that was something that we could kind of parallel with Legoshi. But in this case, we see that, no, she's very clearly, I would say, comes from a place of brokenness, yes, but also a lot more strength, I would say.
Right. And that is great, because then it's exploring the concept further that just because you aren't necessarily a carnivore does not necessarily mean that you're weak, right?
Right.
So in this situation, awesome, cool, we're seeing her in more of her natural element, right?
Right.
She gets tripped by the Mean Girl Squad, but she's totally fine with, dishing back the smack, right?
Yes, that is a rare thing for her though, because she started out with it in her head.
Right.
Which meant that those were things that she was initially not thinking of saying to them.
Which might mean that this is something that's a part of her growth already happening. One of the things that I was curious to see how her story specifically would tie into the grand narrative is that for Legoshi and for Louis, it's a lot more straightforward given the idea of the setting of the animals and all that stuff, right? Legoshi is a wolf, right? And he's been repressing himself and all of that stuff, and he needs to come into his own, right? Louis is the deer. He's the one that should be skittish and afraid, and he's found his place of strength, even though he still has much to learn, right? How does Haru fit into all of that? And because of the whole thing of Legoshi and Louis having the connection over the theater, I was a little bit worried that Haru might end up being sort of like pushed to the sidelines, right?
Yeah.
given that we have this here, and we also have that connection to Louis and also Legoshi, we have a way that we can have that trifecta, because you don't just want to have 3 characters if one character is the main character and the other 2 characters have a connection to that character. You want them to have a connection with each other. That way you can have all the different combinations, right?
Yep.
And we got that here. It's definitely going to complicate things, but then it also goes to show that she does have her own permutation perspective, way that she explores the concept of the nature of the creature not necessarily dictating its existence, right?
Right. And that is something that is having me recontextualize a lot of the ways that I saw her, because I got this vibe from her that she was a little bit more complicated than we were kind of letting kind of ourselves see her as. And seeing her in this situation here where she's starting to give me like really specific vibes with how she's taking advantage of Legoshi's lack of confidence. Basically, because Legoshi is entering into the situation in a way that is making her feel uneasy.
Right.
She is having to lie to the environment around her, basically. This includes Legoshi, but basically anyone else that's watching, potentially, that she's okay with this. Because she is still a rabbit. She is still someone that is, has that fight or flight, or more just flight reflex when it comes to Legoshi. It's very much something that we saw in Louis when he was making his hand gestures, when Legoshi was making his gestures trying to talk to him about the play. Louis couldn't help but look at his claws. In this case, she can't help but acknowledge his fangs, and yet she uses very subtle language to keep the power of the dynamic between the two in her court entirely, which is going to, like he said, create distance and hold that distance.
And one of the things that I really like about this is that it's a way because in a lot of ways she's in the same situation as Louis, right? Even if her social standing within the school is different, she has her position of power basically that she can stick to, and then that sets up her arc for learning when to be vulnerable, right? Because she's been hurt by it in the past, right? And in the same way that Louis doesn't ever want to show, oh yeah, I'm like,
he doesn't want to exercise his power.
Wait, what?
He doesn't want to exercise his power.
No, Louis.
Oh, sorry. I was meaning Legoshi.
Right. So Louis doesn't want to be vulnerable. The whole glance that Legoshi saw of he almost seems just like a regular 18-year-old kid. He doesn't want people to see that. Haru, she has found her own way to basically be in a place of power and confidence and all of that stuff. Despite
she's
being
also
a rabbit,
not being vulnerable.
Right, and she's not being vulnerable. And that's something that, through extenuating circumstances, Legoshi has seen for both of them.
Yes.
Right? And
he's also going on that path as well.
Right, and they have seen the opposite from him. From the one that is insecure, they have seen the points where he actually embraced his nature. Even if Haru has forgotten it and repressed the memory.
Well, I mean, But in some ways, we have less information, though, with Haru, and that's why these little vibes I'm getting here, I think, are really important, because I feel like they're some of the first true things we've seen from, deep within her perspective. Right, because we've seen her mind's thoughts, palace kind of things there and stuff, but, I would we say could see more. We could...
Right. Yeah. And the part where we got to see her thought process after the girls tripped her, I think, was really, really important. Because the closest that I feel like we got to her, other than her opening up to Legoshi that one time with the flowers, was when Legoshi almost ate her, right?
Yeah.
And that is something that it was a time when she was forced to be vulnerable, but now we need to see what she's like in sort of her equilibrium state, right?
Yeah.
In the same way that we didn't have a good read on Legoshi from the first episode, we needed to get the second episode with how does he reel with this, complication and things like that. Well, we did get a fair amount of it in the first episode, but...
We got a good amount because he was in some ways the only one given that primary focus, but it was still hyper-dramatized around the idea that we had just gone through a murder, and he was on the threshold of being someone that would be a devourer or a murderer in the bookends of the episode. Whereas here, now, he's feeling like, okay, I'm getting all this positive reinforcement. There's still some negative stuff, but I feel like I can take a step out here. And the reason why I have to be careful with this with regards to Haru is that she she's not omniscient like us, so she doesn't see exactly where he's coming from.
Yep.
But he is coming at this from the standpoint of, I want to, spend time with her, but in the same aspect of it, this is the wolf that nearly ate her. So
yes, and
yeah,
and it's something where I feel like this is how we can explore her. Well, okay, that's what will make the cathartic ending for these characters worthwhile, right? Because they have limitations. They're not perfect. They don't have an omniscient perspective. All of these things, right? And in a lot of ways, Haru is using, even if it's in different circumstances, she's doing a lot of the same things that the girls were doing to her, to Legoshi, completely well-intentioned, right?
Which doesn't mean anything.
Which doesn't really mean anything, but and that's something that we saw with a lot of the other characters, right? The little comments that they would make. Well, we've got someone now that they really don't want to make mad, or we're not concerned about it anymore. Right?
Yeah,
and of course they would be concerned about it a little bit, but, because,
right,
violence on the stage.
But what's indifferent within those circumstances, and the thing that makes it, I would say, something like what makes Jack's interactions with Legoshi here so important is that the communication happened.
Right.
So
Jack told him, oh yeah, I knew that, that was probably a real thing.
The other characters have a lower form of what Jack had with Legoshi, in that they communicated a little bit. Haru, though, I think was even a little bit lower than the other animals, because she didn't actually communicate anything from a place of vulnerability.
Right. Yeah.
Even if it was accidental by the animals in the set design production crew.
Right.
She didn't give anything to Legoshi. Legoshi didn't give much either.
Yep.
But he did give something.
Right.
So,
because even in the case of the production crew, that was still something where they were able to make those casual and maybe callous comments from a place of safety because they knew Legoshi, right?
Right. There was a connection already established. They weren't trying to build it anymore because they weren't really thinking about the words that they were saying necessarily.
Yeah, but that was something that made them feel like they could just sort of talk freely, right?
Right. And familiarity.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And in the case of Haru, I feel like it's really like the Beauty and the Beast song,
which one?
The actual Beauty and the Beast, bittersweet and strange, what's the line of the barely even friends, then somebody bends, the idea
unexpectedly.
The idea that this tale is the relationship that shouldn't happen, whether you're talking about friends or otherwise, right? Rabbit and wolf, right?
It's improbable because of circumstances, the societal suppression, and then
what's already happened.
Just the stuff that has already happened between the two of them. I want to stay in this area of kind of generalized conceptual discussion, but I do want to eventually get into the details of some of the things that happen in the plot. So what would be a really good way to kind of discuss the dynamic between the characters at play that we're dealing with, the kind of the double layered kind of protected, like lack of vulnerability theme that ran throughout this episode?
Yeah, I feel like it ties back to the whole idea of the different perspectives for the different characters, right? And because you don't have the perspective of someone else, you don't feel like you need to adjust, right? You don't need to be accommodating because you don't see what they see, right? And in the case
you might not even be thinking about that.
Exactly, yeah. Most of the time you wouldn't be thinking about it, right? And even if you are thinking about that kind of a stuff, if you don't see their perspective, you don't see their perspective.
Right, like Legoshi was thinking about that with regards to Louis, but he wasn't thinking about that with regards to Bill.
Right, yeah. And so then taking that with the double layer, I think it's something where maybe because it's kind of like that echo chamber aspect where, like, when you only have your own perspective, then that really does dictate your reality, and decisions can be made based on that limited perspective. And so all right, my legs
definitely
kicking constantly because it's like, nope, he's taking a bite of something that looks like it could have come from me, and
instinct just
right.
I really am like antsy though about going into some of the details here, because I feel like there's a couple big things that they did in this episode that are just freaking me out right now with regards to like certain kind of themes within this. Louis, Bill, and Legoshi had a very awkward thing happen here.
I loved that interaction.
And that was such a good interaction. But I want to bring up the point that Louis took control of the whole thing there because he was the leader of this whole thing and instigated this, one-on-one conversation. But this was something where he kind of shot from the hip and just reflexively did it and demanded of them that they follow along. And in some ways, that's the showing them maybe unintentionally his vulnerability, but also being like, don't you dare put me in a vulnerable position here.
Well, I think it was something where he was wearing multiple hats. Or no, he was wearing a hat that's different than what he would normally be wearing with them, right?
Yes.
Because normally he's the friend and he's the inspirer and he's sort of the champion that, is the paragon and he's like, all right, let's do this, right?
But he switched into director mode.
Director mode because he had to, right? They drew blood on stage in a very unplanned way, and he had to basically save their asses and, step in, right? And he did.
Yeah.
So then he's like, okay, this needs to be addressed, right? Mm-hmm. Y'all aren't coming back to, rehearsals or anything anymore, and that it's like all of that.
But that was before the newspaper people showed up.
Right, that was before the newspaper people showed up. Right.
So I'm talking about when he switched to when they showed up. When we saw Legoshi react in a way of, I see an 18-year-old finally that's got that like unknowing like uneasiness, nervousness and stuff.
I feel like that was...
What did he switch into when that happened?
I think he was still the director.
Really?
Yeah, okay. Because in a worst case scenario, he has a scandal because
two carnivores
were assaulting each other, right? In his domain of the theater, right? He runs this thing,
so he's kind of condoning it by
exactly. It's
attached to it.
So it's sort of okay. Let's smooth this over.
Let's do damage control.
Do damage control both with you two of like what was that, and then when the press comes in. Yes, nothing happened kind of a thing because,
But he changed what he decided as the director before they went there to a different thing. So I want to bring up actually the idea that he was still trying to be the paragon in reality, like truly, when he handed back the blood vial. When he handed that back to Bill, he was saying, I don't care that you broke the rules, that you did all these things there. Mm-hmm. So he was being a little bit vulnerable. I would say, if anything, he was trying to do that thing of what he really wants to do. We saw the truest part of who he was, because I don't think he was play acting for Legoshi's purposes or vice versa. But
I don't think so either.
But when they showed up, he changed the whole narrative, and they didn't get any explanation as to why, other than clue in the press is here. But there could be other reasons regarding that aren't just as obvious of, well,
potentially. Okay. As far as the whole blood vial thing, I think that was maybe that was a paragon, like I'm going to be nice and understanding or whatever. It almost felt like sort of the hard manager, where it's I don't care about personal life stuff. When you're here, you do your thing, right? So, okay, you doped up on some small
illegal substances.
Illegal substances.
Sure.
I don't care, because what I'm dealing with is the consequences of what happened, right?
Yeah.
And as long as that's under control, that's fine. You can,
you can show up, whatever, as long as you do your job right. I don't care.
Exactly.
If you start doing your job wrong, then we'll have a problem. But I'll be addressing those results, not the root cause of it, because I don't care about your decisions in that regard.
We're adults here. I'm trusting you to be responsible enough to know what you need to do in order to do what you have to do.
Exactly. When you're in a work environment, they don't care that you're sleeping through your alarm clock.
Right.
They care that you're showing up on time.
Yep.
The cause of why you don't show up on time is irrelevant. The fact that you don't bring the results that are expected of you, that's the problem.
You could be pulling all-nighters and never getting a wink of sleep. As long as you're able to function properly, they don't really care. If you stop functioning properly, then they'll have an issue.
Right.
And then when the press came in, I feel like that was Legoshi just sort of staying in that role, kind of. I don't know. Like, Louis. Yeah, sorry, Louis.
Yeah. It's okay. I do the same. I do too.
But because it was also not just manager, but also like PR, he's like, all right, now, there was no argument here, whatever, you know, it was all according to Cake, you know, and now, yes, I'm glad you liked the performance.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha. So then, when we go then to Jack, and he's being, I would say...
just the goodest boy.
Just a really good friend here, because one of the things that he did was he didn't ask specifically probing questions regarding why it happened. In some ways, he did make an assumption in that he asked whether or not you had gotten all your anger out, which I think is a really gutsy question to ask, because if you're asking someone that, you're assuming there was something there to begin with.
Right.
But he's doing it from the standpoint of, I am going to be vulnerable and ask a question that is going to make me potentially look like not a good friend by going into something that isn't specific to the play, but just your person in general.
It's asking a question about how Legoshi's doing, not about why Legoshi did something that might have made him uncomfortable.
Exactly, yes.
You know, and that's what I think is really important, is that it shows that he does care about Legoshi first and foremost.
Yeah.
And it's weird, because it's kind of in parallel to when Haru and Louis were together, and he was like, you know, you don't probe into these kinds of things. That's not your style. And she's like, yeah, you're right. You know, so, yeah.
Right.
Man.
There's this other aspect, though. Once things go into a little bit more of a positive thing, Jack starts asking a question here that I really like. And he's like, oh, that's, you know, sort of thing happens to everyone, you know, with regards to controlling your own feelings and stuff. And he's like, do you dislike it? And the way he goes, like, no, I don't. Which is what I dislike. Which is what I dislike.
Yeah.
And I think what's just a wonderful picture of the mess of what Legoshi is dealing with right now is, as we've seen over and over and over again in the episodes that we've gotten here, Legoshi is in a situation of a combined aspect of his making and his environment's making. And it has just exhausted him to the point where he doesn't put energy out into his environment. Like, when you think about expression, and when you think about people doing something of their own power and energy, it has to come from within at some point. It doesn't have to start there. It just has to funnel through there. At some point along the pipeline, there has to be some energy that came from within you.
Right.
But I think that's the point, though. If there's any bit of genuine aspect of it, it comes through you. What this is, though, is he's saying that I wish I could, correct me if I'm wrong, but I get what he's saying is that I wish I could give of myself out. I wish I could express myself in a way that I could control and be then happy about it.
Right, because the kind of stuff that that Jack was talking about is sort of the main theme of this story, right? Is that you want to be able to express yourself and be true to yourself in a way that in sort of the proper way, right? With the proper way being, don't hurt other people by doing it, right? And in Legoshi's case, it's something where he's lived his whole life in this repressive state because he doesn't know how to be true to himself. Well, no, he probably didn't even think that he should be true to himself because he was so convinced that every aspect of his nature was something that was negative and must be locked up, right?
Right.
Whereas now he's starting to realize there are some positive aspects to my nature, right? There are some negative aspects to it, though, in like certain circumstances, like the fact that I attacked Bill and all of that stuff, right? I don't like the fact that felt good to do because that could make it so that then I have to open the cage up and go through everything, because how do you truly be yourself as a wolf, as a carnivore, as a predator
in this world where your natural prey is one that you are having to live in balance with.
Live in balance.
So I think that's it. It's the live in balance bit. Is that I was wrong in my initial bit in that it's not about control. Control is almost completely not a thing that I think is in this conversation here.
Okay.
It's more about how he can express himself in a way that is true to himself, but doesn't require him to step in and go, suppress control. Right. Because the more he micromanages it, the more he's essentially putting his own hands onto it, his claws like kind of constricting himself by the neck. Right. He's in pain. He's having to deal with that. And then in the recent bit, he's feeling a little bit of that elation of not having to hold so tightly to his expression.
His tail can start wagging a little bit.
Just freely and accidentally.
Yep.
And that's something where it's alien to the way he's lived his life thus far. It's mirrored, interestingly, in the way that he kind of had things happen with Haru. And yet, what happens later with Haru actually kind of contradicts it, and that's why he doesn't really enjoy exactly what happened with Haru in the cafeteria, at least, because it was something where he was realizing that the environment was shifting around him, and he had to essentially control his expression in order to quickly adapt to the environment that wasn't necessarily friendly to him.
Right, because in a lot of cases, if not for the fact that Haru had these additional complications, regarding this whole situation with Legoshi, then the story could have just ended right here, right? You know, he talks to her, and then maybe the only thing of conflict that comes up is that Haru remembers at some point, and then it's I have to deal with that, right? But other than that,
remembers what?
That he almost ate her.
Now that's a good point to bring up. Thank you for reminding me about that. Is that she currently does not, at least as far as we know,
and we have seen her perspective, so
that she doesn't have any recollection about that. So thank you for reminding me about that. That actually changes a couple things.
And that is something where normally in a lot of stories that would mean that they start going into melodrama, right? Where we have to come up with all these little things to sort of do filler in the middle of the story to get to the end, right? What it can mean, though, if you get things that are complications that still tie to the themes of the story, and you sell the characters well enough so that this is a real person. It's not just a simple thing. Haru is more than just the idea of a helpless bunny, right? That then, can pull Legoshi out of his shell, right? She has her own inner workings and stuff that need to be, like she needs to go over and progress and things like that and work on herself. Then we can actually have that cathartic resolution with all of this extra buildup.
Yeah. One of the things that happened this episode that we need to quickly touch on here is that there's this festival coming up, the Meteorite Festival, that a lot of people are going to be going to. There's potential for it to be a setting for some added drama, conflict, interactions between Haru, Louis, and Legoshi. So that's going to be its own thing. However, I want to just go and deep dive on Haru here for a second. Like, I feel like there's so much we could go into within the interactions here that we need to at least give some one-dimensional discussion on the individual characters here.
Okay.
Because Haru, I feel like there were a couple things that she, in being someone that is trying to not be vulnerable, accidentally let some things slip here.
Yep.
One, that she thought that she slept with him.
Right. She completely wrote him off as, like, his existence, basically.
Well, it was specifically you don't have anything on me because I slept with you. I don't do favors for men that I've slept with.
Right.
Which is translation, in my opinion, for, I slept with you, but you don't have anything on me. So I think that doubly confirms that she uses sex as a defense mechanism.
Right. She also definitely seems to enjoy it, given her interactions with Louis and things like that.
Totally.
But yeah,
totally.
But it's something.
Who doesn't enjoy it?
Right.
In the consensual, form. Yes.
But it's something where she's basically saying, it's a way for her to not be vulnerable, right? So she's essentially automatically relegating Legoshi to that. After that's not the case, then that's when the predator carnivore stuff comes up.
Right.
As another reason, a legitimate one that she is, like she's even trying to work around, but she's having trouble with it in order to, again, avoid being vulnerable.
But then, almost immediately after the cafeteria scene, it seems like, in my opinion, she's setting up some level of an environment to where they could end up sleeping together anyway.
Oh.
I think that this whole situation here, like, in some ways shows that she is very, very uncomfortable around him in the literal sense.
Yeah.
But that she's not comfortable leaving it that way either.
Sure. Okay,
So
I can see that.
she leaves a couple hints specifically, like, I'm going back to my dorm. You?
Uh-huh.
And then I'm going to head back. Well, now she does the, like,
I'm having trouble with a thing that I should be able to do just fine.
That I'm totally able to do just fine.
Uh-huh.
And then leads to this kind of little bit of their eyes meeting properly. And
now one of the things that is interesting, though, is that she does actually, she's the one who basically
bridges the gap
of my name's Haru, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that I would think, maybe it's just something to, I don't know, ease the tension, whatever. But it seems like it would be something where that is allowing Legoshi to be basically someone in her perspective other than just someone that she either has slept with or is going to sleep with.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of ways, I feel like Louis, maybe that's one of the ways that he seemed different, is that she was very much like just sort of like, oh yeah, looking at the newspaper, you know, when he was around and stuff, and just like, oh yeah, talking about whatever, right? As opposed to like, this is what I do to make it so that you sort of have no control over me and I feel empowered, and then that's it. You know?
Okay. Sure. Yeah, I see that.
Because I feel like I was picking up on those things too, but I don't think she would be trying to sleep with him at this point, given how much trouble she's having with her own instincts and fears. But I could also see it being something where she is actively trying to, you know, beat that.
No, I think it's entirely a thing of I think we can boil it down for her. She of course she enjoys on some level, not necessarily entirely though, having sex with these other animals and stuff, with these other people. But we have, I would say, almost definitive proof now at this case that it is primarily a defense mechanism. At least it is a big part of her defense mechanism in general. That is why she went towards it specifically when she was with him alone originally, and he was giving those quiet, kind of awkward vibes. She's like, oh, assuming this will close off any other awkward ways that this can go. Then in here, when she's like, oh yeah, I slept with you. No, we actually didn't. Oh, okay. Then when they go into the situation where she's terrified, she's putting on every air to not let him know that she is terrified.
What if there was some aspect that, because yes, I totally picked up, like, I was, you know, thinking those things too.
Yeah.
What if there's some aspect of it where, because in the episode where she offered to have sex with Legoshi, it was something where she was not in a good place emotionally at that point in time. What if that is part of her sort of journey to fully come into her own, where she is able to have that sort of like, oh yeah, this is like, you know, this is a crutch that I've been using because it's something that, you know,
it's a crutch I currently use. Let's not put it in past tense.
Well, like it's a crutch I currently use, but there's a reason why I chose this crutch specifically, right? And then,
well, there's definitely a reason.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason that she needs a crutch, and then there's a reason why she chooses this crutch, right?
Yes, definitely.
And then maybe the natural progression of that is getting to the point where that thing stops being a crutch.
Right. Right now, I still think it's being used as a crutch because we have never seen in any instance here where a character is with Legoshi and they're nervous, scared of him in some way, that they don't put up some defense mechanism, that they don't put up some kind of thing, some basically barrier. If they show a level of fear regarding him, they run away. They give kind of passive-aggressive remarks.
Sure.
They're Louis, and they literally like, I'm going to establish dominance right here, right now.
Right.
And Haru, I think it's because we're getting a lot more internal perspective of her, seeing that she is way on the other side of being terrified here, and we're not seeing any, I would say, consistent levels of defense mechanism. It feels too inconsistent for me to trust it. Basically, it doesn't feel as much like a progression as it seems like she's just literally like unsure, doesn't know exactly how to approach this.
Yeah.
Right. And thus she would fall back on what's normal for her.
Gotcha. I figured it was something where she's like, well, that's definitely not something that I, even thinking back on it, really want to use as my defense mechanism, so then I have to come up with other stuff sort of on the fly.
But we've never seen her specifically being, like, upset or any... Like, what have we seen that shows that she would be against using sex as a defense mechanism?
The biggest one for me was not that she would be against using it as that, but that it wouldn't only be that, was her scene with Louis.
Ooh.
Because it didn't seem like there was any level of, like, aggression, you know, physical or social or anything like that.
Yeah.
Between the two of them.
I guess I'm just okay. Yeah. Sorry. Keep going.
Well, it was just this is what it is. Like, they'd established a good equilibrium, you know, even though they are total opposites, with him being the social paragon and her being the social outcast, right?
Right. I feel like I can't draw any hard data on that. That's more of, in my opinion, right now at least, a plot thing, just to know this is happening as well.
There is going to be a triangle out of this kind of thing.
Right. And it's not necessarily just a triangle. It's Haru is sleeping with a lot of people. Like, that is just a thing that's going on.
Right.
And we're supposed to be, as the viewer, kind of thrown into that kind of tricky situation of, are we going to immediately just judge without looking deeper? Or are we going to then quickly have to, like, identify specifically why that is? And because we didn't get, in my opinion, enough data with regards to the Louis situation to make any really hard, concrete things with regards to her character, I think it's just more of a thing of, by the way, she's sleeping with Louis too. Okay. So the things of where other people are going really hard into the antagonistic way of just slut, you know, and stuff like that, they have no connection to Haru, so they're just judging, and they're not looking at it necessarily from a third-person, omniscient, you know, unbiased perspective. So
I feel like there's a lot of impressions we can get, even if it's not, like, as concrete necessarily.
Totally.
About Haru, Louis, and the relationship between the two based on that scene, because like, the whole idea of, like, looking at a newspaper, you know, like, that's the kind of thing that you would expect, like, an established couple to do. Kind of like, oh, what's going on today, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's another day in the life sort of a thing. Oh, this happened, you know.
Right.
Like, it didn't feel like this was an exception, and what we've gathered from her previous relationships most seem to be that way, where it's more of, like, a one-and-done deal where they, you know, bang and ditch, right? And in this situation, it didn't feel like that, so I'm really curious to see how that's explored, given the fact that Louis, well, he wasn't vulnerable with her, but there was sort of this understanding of, we have our own separate lives, we don't necessarily need to go into them, and we don't want to go into them, but we are still accepting of the person in front of us.
Okay. I want to quickly talk about Jack before we end this one, because there's a lot of things that were brought up in here. But if anything, I'm gonna bring up one insight that I think I got from this that I don't know if you're exactly bringing up here, is that she actually does ask what happened. Something else didn't go the way you wanted. Something else.
Oh,
meaning
something else that you also said. There.
Then it's also saying he gives kind of a, hey, you don't have the place to ask me that question kind of response. Not prying into such matters is one of your virtues, isn't it? That is, in my opinion, a diplomatic way of saying, hey, your reputation is that you don't do that. Or one of your virtues. Okay, let's make it a more positive way.
Yeah.
One of the things I like about you is that you don't pry into such things, except that she has done this before. Something else.
Which shows that while they both have their own rules, both with her not asking about those things and Louis not being vulnerable about those things, he has expressed that kind of stuff. They both have broken their rules with each other. Which is a lot of familiarity. So that is something I think we can gather, is that this is not the first time that they've slept together. Right, yeah, this is... Yeah.
Yeah. And he's doing this primarily probably because he's a little stressed right now or something. Yeah. But Jack, Holy crap, Jack.
So adorable. I love him.
I guess I don't really have as much to say about Jack. It's just more of the fact that he has this familiarity, again, with Legoshi, that I don't know how their system of society or whatever is set up, but he's like 17 years of no crush and you finally awakened. This guy is close to Legoshi. He's legitimately like a childhood friend kind of
guy, or at the very least he
potentially.
knows that he hasn't had him. He might not have known him his whole life.
No, that's very true.
But he has known him, like, he knows him better than anybody else that we've seen thus far.
Right, other than Legoshi.
Well, Legoshi knows Legoshi better than Jack, probably.
But I think that Jack being this other character in the story that can be a much more wholesome, maybe idealized relationship for him, for Legoshi, is something that cannot be understated if things start to go really sour between Louis and Haru and their dynamic with Legoshi.
Right. It covers one of the potential issues in that if Legoshi doesn't have an example of what a good relationship looks like, then how will he make sure that he holds them to the standards that they need to be held to with their interactions with him?
Yes.
Sure. Yes.
But wow, I'm sorry, guys. I rambled quite a bit this discussion, kind of doubled back on a lot of things I was even talking about, but I really liked what they set up here with Haru and Legoshi. I really feel like I understand Haru a bit more, and yet I like also that you're seeing a slightly different perspective on this here, because I'm not 100% certain in a lot of the things that I'm seeing here with Haru, but I'm starting to get some very complicated vibes from here that are making me like kind of, I don't think that Beastars is going to do this, but are kind of wanting me to almost like jump through a lot of the tension that's going to be coming and be like, just give me her backstory. Just I want the flashback. Show me what happened, because I am mixed right now in this whole thing.
Right, because here they're basically saying, no, you don't fully know Haru, right? And
we don't even know close to anything about Haru.
Oh yeah, right, exactly. And that's one of the problems that all the other people are having at the school, right? Same thing with Legoshi.
Right.
So let's get to know her a bit more.
Right.
You know, let's get to know the her that Legoshi won't be seeing. Right? In the
For
same way.
For
a while. Yeah. In the same way that Haru doesn't know the Legoshi that she doesn't see.
Right. So in the end, this is all again a classic thing of, hey, we need to talk more. We need more communication, and but we wouldn't have all the drama if we did that. So
because that's what makes it worth it when you get there.
Yeah. So thankfully the characters in this show are written really well thus far. So I won't go into melodrama necessarily. So y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general, and you can also talk with Jacob about the sci-fi novel that he wrote.
Yes, I wrote a sci-fi novel called Battle Lines. It's really awesome with some great characters, and if you're interested in reading it, the link to Amazon where you can purchase it is in the description down below.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.